Hey everybody, I hope this finds you well. Happy June. This is the first of what will be some regular video blogs, or what is also known as a vlog. And I thought this would be a great way to reach out and provide some gentle reminders about taking care of ourselves beyond just our regular exercise and physical activity routines, but remembering that to complete that whole cycle of health and wellness, to have a full spectrum of that we have to work beyond just getting regular exercise. And so that's why I wanted to start this, to be able to just provide some information to that end. So we have been out of what we knew as normal for 2.5 months now. Thankfully, things are really starting to open up back here in Vermont. So that's bringing a whole new adventure for us as we start to get out and about more often and return to some of our regular routines, even though it will look and feel a little bit different. So that can bring up a whole different set of emotions, and also movements around the community compared to that 2.5 months ago, when we were really sort of sanctioned to our homes in the quarantine. So with that being said, depending on how your life has sort of transformed over the last 2.5 months, and I know it has, for many people, based on what our experiences have been, I encourage you to make a plan. I am a planner. I am not an uber planner, because I do believe in some of the organic nature and spontaneity that life provides to us. But when it comes to our health, whether it's getting on a regular exercise schedule and staying there, or especially minding our nutrition, and being able to manage stress, planning really helps in that process, and it helps keep our frenzy in check, if we have a plan, and if we can stay on track with that plan and roll with the punches when things do change, because that is going to be part of the puzzle. And also not beat ourselves up when we veer off track a little bit, because again, that's part of the enjoyment of life, is to be able to kind of cut loose and take those breaks at time. So that means that, some weeks, to be more specific, your exercise routine is not going to be as planned, and maybe you don't get enough, or you don't get as much just general activity that you want to. That does not mean you're a failure. It just means that that's the way that particular week went, and the best thing that you can do for yourself is be forgiving and honoring the fact that although you didn't have as much time to get to those facets of your daily life, you were giving energy to other places, even if that meant you just needed a break and that you just needed a rest. The important part is that you are being truthful about what was really going on, to not fulfill maybe that part of your plan. Nutrition wise, I think I've definitely had quite a few conversations around nutrition over the last week. And I think it would be fair to say that all of us sort of got knocked off kilter with what our regular nutrition practice was, and what it might have become while we were in quarantine. And the fact of the matter is that when we were in quarantine, even with regular exercise and whatnot, we were getting out of our houses a lot less, which is just going to lend itself to a more sedentary lifestyle, despite maybe working out an hour or two, or not so much during the day. We probably went back to some more comfort style of eating, and we probably did not make any decreases in our frequency and portions of eating, which means if we don't use that energy, it gets stored, and then the pounds start to creep on a little bit. It doesn't mean that we were pigging out on purpose. But there might have been some emotional eating that went on there in the beginning of this, and guilty as charged with that, and we should not feel bad about that. But if you're at a point now where you really want to re-look at your nutrition, I think that it is a great idea. And get in touch with me and let's have some conversations about that, as I have with some people already, because we need to talk about what has been going on for you, and how can you reset yourself to where you were at before quarantine, or if you were just not in a good place then but now you're ready to do something. Let's talk about that too, because I'm always looking at sort of different programming models and nutritional opportunities and good food selections and whatnot. And quite honestly, at this point, food selection wise, we really want to be as healthy, whole food as possible, and really bulking up on foods that can boost our immunity, because we truly don't quite know what's going on out there with this virus. And the more that we are out and about, the more we put ourselves at a little bit of risk with just the unknown of the other people that we're around, and maybe just the reality of where this virus is at. So the bottom line with your nutrition is you want to have a plan, but you also want to know what the truth is about what's going on with your nutrition. And the only way that you're going to know is by writing it down, whether that's digitally. And if you're digital, I mean on a notepad, not in an app by MyFitnessPal or something, because that one in particular, I think there's a high margin of error and can provide you false information, because you can log it in the way you want to see it in those numbers versus what the reality was of how much or what item that you ate. I think there's real value in writing things down, pen to paper, and really tracking a lot of aspects of your life. What is your level of stress been? What is your quality and quantity of sleep been? Those all are going to play a factor in what our body is doing, in addition to what we're actually feeding our body. All right. So chances are we need to take down the energy level, meaning calories consumed. We need to be mindful of portions and truly get to a very healthy whole foods diet, lean proteins, fruits and vegetables, whole grains. And before you know it, your body will reset itself, and it will feel great and energized. All right. The same can be said from our overall lifestyle. You've been at home for a long time now, working and living. So how has that played out for you? Perhaps you went through and really purged your house in a really deep spring cleaning this year. Maybe you made some rearranging because you're going to be working at home for a lot longer. And just created some more comfy spaces, which is sort of the process that I've been through, because the more we're home, the more we're going to want that to be a soft landing place when we're combining working at home, working where we live, and living where we work. So being able to carve out that separation and some places that really support us in those down times, and making things pleasing in those work times, because again, that's going to help with some of the stress management pieces and some of the energy pieces, and keeping us motivated to charge forward towards our best life and our most optimal level of health. And chances are that all of us have had a really busy mind over the last 2.5 months, learning what it is like to be restricted in our regular activities, supporting other family members, whether it's in a caregiving situation, whether it's in a homeschooling situation, and it just brings up a lot. And so there's probably a lot of things that you've been conflicted about, And none of those are bad feelings to be feeling, but I think this whole period has been a great opportunity for us to really be almost forced to reflect on where we are at, where we want to go, and how we want to get there. And I think what I've heard from a lot of people too is the ability to live with so much less doing, and less quantity of everything in our life. And that is certainly a way that we can improve our health, is by slowing down the pace of our everyday lives, slowing down the intake of information from the media. I'm sure we were all into the media, 10 weeks ago, and now we're probably trying to back off because, again, there has been a lot of doom and gloom out there. There was a lot of sadness and a lot of trauma out there. So we want to be mindful about how we are feeding our senses to be able to manage all of that and keep the quality of our life and our level of joys high while navigating the challenges that we all continue to face. So, as usual, the prescription is that exercise is definitely medicine, and having a good structured routine that you can stick to is going to provide endless amounts of dividends. Equally important becomes that nutrition. Food is medicine. Even sometimes that emotional eating part where we're eating those things we shouldn't have all the time, but there's a certain amount of comfort in that. But that healthy, well-balanced diet and plate at your meals, and having some really good structure and plan around what you're feeding yourself, and not just flying by the seat of your pants. Your body is going to thank you in many ways that it thanks you when you do exercise. So it really behooves you to spend a little bit more time on food, and I am happy to give you some of my time to talk that out and come up with something that works. Finally, the mindset pieces. Many of you know I'm pretty much a perpetual optimist, always seeing the glass half full, almost to a fault, because I find it extremely difficult when people operate from that opposite perspective. And let's face it, over the last 2.5 months, every single person out there has had a challenge. And some people, might have had bigger challenges or think that they have had bigger challenges, but absolutely nobody has gone unscathed by this pandemic. And so mindset wise, if it was doom and gloom for you, try to flip it around and make a different story for yourself. Like, for sure, like, there's a lot of hurt and a lot of sacrifice out there, especially amongst the unemployed, especially amongst businesses who just were not able to operate, had no option to operate for several weeks. But the most resilient, optimistic, hardworking, and mindful people are going to get out of this bigger and better and stronger than they ever were before, compared to people who were only wallowing in what they might have felt victim to, whether it was having to homeschool their kid on top of balancing at home work. I understand that is hard, but we sign up to be a parent. And so to be able to balance that, it should be a joyous time to be able to spend more time with your children. Caregiving for significant others, especially our parents, they took care of us for so many years. So yeah, we kind of have to pay that back, pay it forward. So the more we can keep a positive mindset and have daily practices that help us support that mindset through reading and writing practices. Many of you know that I'm a big journaler. Those kind of practices, including meditation, just help keep our mind strong to deal with the challenges that come our way in our personal life and our occupational life, day in and day out. And that is how we're going to get on the other side of that doom and gloom and sort of negative judgmental mindset that has really no place in our lives unless you don't want to live the most joyful life as possible. It is also going to help keep our stress levels low. And if we're always constantly operating at this high level of stress, that throws off our hormone levels. And when hormones are out of whack, that just wreaks havoc on different parts of our body as well. So now more than ever, those daily well-being lifestyle practices, some form of meditation or breathing exercises, some form of slowing down the pace with yoga or stretching, reading uplifting material, and definitely sort of, again, tracking your life, journaling about what is going well, what's not working for you, so you can then make that plan to flip those bad things around and make them strengths. All right. So that is all for now. It's the beginning of June. If you feel like you're still stuck in a rut, reach out to me. Let's get together for a little bit of coaching if you need that support. Otherwise, take some time to make a plan for the direction that you're going in this month. It is summer. The weather is getting nice. Have the best summer ever and charge forward with whatever it is that you set your mind to, and maybe whatever came up to you during this time of quarantine, because we only get this one life, and if we do it right, whatever that means for us, one life is all we need. So hopefully this was a little bit helpful, inspired you, gave you a little bit of information and just gentle reminders about how we create our most well-rounded life in every aspect to stay motivated and driven to keep working, to just being the best version of ourselves in what has been a really rocky start to 2020, but we're on the other side and life is full of possibility. So thanks for watching this all the way through. Stay tuned for future vlogs on different topics. Take care.